Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're diving deep today into Paul Murray's The Bee Sting.
Oh, this one is excellent. So much going on with this family.
A lot going on, and kind of darkly funny at times.
Yeah, for sure. That dark humor definitely helps when you're dealing with some of these heavy themes, loss and resilience and all that.
Definitely, and we're working with excerpts from the novel itself.
Exactly.
So our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to unpack how this family, the Barnes, deal with all this turmoil.
Yeah, see how they navigate it all. Personal stuff, money troubles, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. So should we start with where this book fits? I mean, it's pretty recent, right?
It's contemporary. It definitely speaks to some of those anxieties we all feel today, like climate change, the economy being shaky.
Oh, for sure. That makes it hit close to home.
Yeah, very much so.
So let's meet this family then, the Barnes.
Okay, so you've got Dickie the dad, his business is going belly up, and Imelda the mom, she's got, well, a lot going on under the surface.
Yeah, she uses humor a lot, but there's some deeper stuff there, right?
Oh yeah, some past trauma, a bee sting incident on her wedding day, no less.
Wow. Okay, that's quite the image.
Right. And then there's the kids, Cass and PJ, they're dealing with all this fallout in their own ways.
Teenagers, that's a tough time for all this to go down.
Absolutely. And right away, Murray gets you thinking about resilience, how families cope.
Yeah, kind of bracing yourself for how they're going to handle it all.
Exactly.
So let's unpack some of the plot. I mean, it kicks off with Dickie's business tanking, right?
Yeah, that's the domino that sets everything in motion.
And it affects everything, their money, their relationships, everything starts to unravel.
Yeah, their foundation is cracking, and their garage, it's like the symbol of it all.
The garage.
Yeah, it starts as this representation of their success,
Yeah.
but then as things fall apart, it literally starts falling apart too.
Wow, that's interesting how he uses that space, the garage, to kind of reflect their inner state.
It's really clever. Makes you think about how our surroundings can reflect what's going on inside us.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of inner states, let's talk about Imelda. She's got this glamorous facade, quick with the jokes.
Yeah, but there's a lot more to her than meets the eye.
That bee sting, it's not just a quirky detail, is it?
No, it's like it foreshadows all the sting, all the disappointment that comes later.
Almost like a warning, like a bad omen.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if she was ever truly happy or if she was always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
So she's living with this underlying anxiety, this fear.
It seems like it. And that bee sting, it represents that fear, the fear of the future, maybe even of commitment itself.
And then we have Dickie. He's got this complicated relationship with success.
Oh, yeah, driven, wants to prove himself, maybe even outshine his brother, Frank, who we hear about but never actually meet.
Right. Frank is this presence that hangs over everything, even though he's gone.
Exactly. So Dickie builds his business up, but as it crumbles, we see him unravel too.
He becomes vulnerable, he makes mistakes, has an affair with this much younger woman, Rizard.
It's a tough fall, and he even says at one point, being good was no good.
Oof, that's telling. His past is influencing all these choices.
It definitely seems that way.
And through all this, Cass and PJ are trying to, I don't know, just survive, grow up, figure it out.
Teenagers in the middle of a family implosion, it's rough.
Cass is on the verge of adulthood, worried about the environment, her friends, going to college, big stuff.
She's trying to find her voice, and she rebels in interesting ways.
Like leaving that Sylvia Plath book for her principal.
Right. A cry for attention, maybe, but also a sign of strength.
And then there's PJ. He seems so vulnerable at first, retreats into video games.
Yeah, sensitive kid, observes everything, but he finds solace in nature, too.
That's interesting, the contrast between the virtual world and the natural world.
It's like he's searching for something real, something pure.
Yeah, remember when he asks why the squirrels can't all just get along?
It's heartbreaking, right?
Oh.
He just wants things to be simple, harmonious.
Definitely shows the difference between the natural world and the messiness of human relationships.
And those relationships are at the heart of everything Murray's exploring here.
Okay, so we've got this family on the brink, characters grappling with loss, searching for meaning, and Murray's weaving in humor and tragedy.
It's a potent mix, and it sets the stage for some pivotal moments that really drive the story forward.
Like that bee sting incident. We've got to unpack that more. Its impact on Imelda and her whole outlook.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. And then the collapse of the garage, that's both literal and symbolic.
Right. It signals their downfall, the loss of their shared dream, everything.
And we can't forget about the bunker Dickie starts building.
Oh, the bunker. That's a whole other layer of
Yeah,
symbolism.
right. Protection, anxiety, maybe even paranoia about the world.
So many layers to peel back. But before we get into those, let's pause here for a second.
Sure.
What are your initial impressions of the Barnes family? What stands out to you?
Honestly, I'm drawn to Imelda. Her inner world is fascinating.
Yeah, me too. She's got this complex internal monologue.
Murray describes it as a blizzard of frenzied white nothings.
Such a great line. It captures that tendency to overthink, to use humor as a shield.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder if those anxieties stem from the bee sting or if they go even deeper, back to her own childhood.
Oh, that's a great point. The impact of the past, how it shapes us.
It's a big question, one that we'll keep exploring as we go deeper into the bee sting.
Absolutely. Lots more to uncover here.
Can't wait to dig in further.
Let's do it.
So that bee sting incident, we were talking about that. It's not just a random thing, is it?
No, it feels like this crack in her foundation, always there.
Like a constant reminder of, I don't know, vulnerability, maybe?
Yeah, and it's interesting how Murray contrasts that with their early days. The big house, the parties.
All that success, the image they projected.
Right. Makes you wonder if Imelda was ever truly happy or if she was always waiting for it to all fall apart.
Like the bee sting was a warning, a premonition almost.
Yeah, maybe. So she's living with this fear, this anxiety, and it affects everything.
And it definitely influences how she interacts with Cass, pushing her to achieve, go to college.
Like she's trying to make sure Cass avoids her same fate.
Right, like a way to protect her from disappointment.
It's complicated, motherhood, how our own experiences shape how we parent.
For sure, and it's interesting to compare Imelda's style to Dickie's. He's flawed, but
But he has these moments of genuine connection with the kids, especially PJ.
remember when he takes PJ fishing? Or when he confides in him about his worries?
It's so different from Imelda's approach, more distant, sometimes even critical.
Highlights how differently we express love, maybe. How men and women approach it.
But even Dickie's connection is strained. As his business fails, the affair, he pulls away.
Creates this void, and it's even more pronounced because PJ doesn't have any other strong male figures.
Right. Frank, Dickie's brother, he's this looming presence even though he's dead.
Yeah, we only hear about him through others, but it's clear he was charismatic, almost larger than life.
And Dickie's always trying to live up to that, to Frank's legacy.
Like he can never quite measure up no matter how successful he becomes.
And that drives him, that insecurity, pushes him to take risks
Yeah.
in business, in his personal life.
And those risks lead to his downfall, the business collapsing. It's not just about money, is it?
No, it's like his whole facade is crumbling, his carefully constructed identity.
And then there's the fact that his father was secretly auditing his books, adds another layer.
Oh yeah, the generational conflict, the unspoken expectations.
It's a powerful scene when they confront each other, strips Dickie bare.
Forces him to face the consequences.
Yeah.
And it shows how differently they see the world, Dickie and his father.
A clash of values, old versus new, tradition versus, I don't know, maybe a more introspective way of life.
And either of them can really bridge that gap. They're both trapped.
Emotionally trapped, unable to give each other what they need.
And that feeling of being trapped, it's reflected in the physical spaces too, like the bunker.
We talked about the garage, but the bunker's even more intense, right?
Starts as a practical thing, protection from the outside world, but it becomes something else.
A symbol of his retreat from reality, his paranoia, his need for control.
Like he's building a world where he can shut everything out, all the messiness of life.
But it's an illusion, of course, and it just isolates him further.
And that isolation, it's something other characters feel too. Cass, PJ, even Imelda in her own way.
Cass feels trapped by her family, her town, PJ by his sensitivity, Imelda by her anxieties.
They're all searching for a way out, a path to freedom.
The question is, can they find it within their family, their community?
Or do they have to break free, even if it means leaving everything behind?
That's the central tension, and it's something we all relate to, right?
Totally. Those moments when you feel stuck, limited, and you have to decide, do you fight or do you surrender?
And it brings us back to resilience. It's not just about enduring hardship, is it?
No, it's about adapting, evolving, finding a way to thrive.
And the bee sting asks us to consider what that really means, true resilience.
Is it holding on to the familiar or having the courage to let go and embrace the unknown?
Powerful questions. And before we go back to the characters' journeys, we have to talk about Murray's writing.
Oh, yeah, his use of language is amazing. So precise, so witty,
He gets the nuances of human emotion, the absurdity of everyday life,
lyrical and sharp at the same time, and he's not afraid to experiment.
switching perspectives, jumping around in time. It keeps you on your toes.
And his metaphors, his imagery, especially when he describes nature.
It's like nature becomes a reflection of their inner lives, you know?
Like those squirrels, they seem innocent at first, but they become something more.
Symbols of freedom, vulnerability, a reminder of the dangers lurking beneath the surface.
Right, that contrast between the beauty of nature and the darkness that can exist anywhere.
And Murray blended all of that, the natural elements, the human relationships, the humor and tragedy.
It's a rich tapestry, makes you think about how everything is connected, the good and the bad.
And that mix of humor and tragedy, it keeps the story from being too bleak, too sentimental.
Reminds you that even in the darkest moments, there's still room for laughter, for those little moments of grace.
Exactly. He captures those moments beautifully, and it's what makes the bee sting so compelling, so unforgettable.
It stays with you, makes you think about your own life, your own relationships.
Challenges your perceptions, provokes your emotions, leaves you with a sense of hope and unease.
It's a powerful combination. So let's turn back to the characters now, their individual paths.
We've talked about Dickie and Imelda, but what about Cass and PJ?
How do they navigate all this turmoil? What glimpses of hope do we see in their stories?
Well, Cass goes off to Dublin for college, experiences this newfound freedom.
But she's still haunted by her past, by the unresolved issues in her family.
Her relationship with her roommate, Elaine, is fascinating. They have this intense bond.
But they trigger each other, too, like they're reenacting the dysfunctional dynamics they grew up with.
Trying to break free, but also falling back into familiar patterns.
It shows how hard it is to escape those ingrained behaviors, how the past can influence our present.
Absolutely, and Cass's journey is all about self-discovery, peeling back those layers to find her true self.
Even if it's messy, painful, full of setbacks,
It's a process, and then there's PJ, so sensitive, he escapes into video games.
creates these virtual worlds where he has control, where the rules are clear.
But even there, in his escapism, there's this glimmer of resilience, of creativity.
And his connection to nature, those walks in the woods, talking to the squirrels.
It offers him another kind of escape, a connection to something bigger than himself.
Something pure, something full of wonder.
Remember when he asks why they can't all just live together peacefully?
It's heartbreaking, but it also speaks to his innate goodness, his desire for a better world.
It's a beautiful image, and it makes you wonder if PJ, despite his vulnerability, might be the one to break the cycle.
Maybe he can offer a glimpse of hope, a more compassionate future.
And as we approach the climax, that's the question Murray leaves us with.
All these characters on their own journeys, facing their challenges, how will it all come together?
What will determine their fate, and what insights have resonated with you so far?
For me, it's that idea of the past and how it shapes us, those choices our parents made, the stories we were told.
It's a universal question, right? How much of who we are is determined by where we come from?
And Murray doesn't give us easy answers, but he makes us think about it, confront those influences.
And the novel also shows us how complex families are. The expectations, the resentments, the love and loyalty mixed with conflict.
It's messy, but there's also resilience, a capacity for forgiveness, even in the most dysfunctional families.
Absolutely. And amidst all that, there's this theme of resilience, the ability to adapt and overcome,
But we've seen it takes many forms. It's not always about being strong, it's also about vulnerability.
about acknowledging our limits, asking for help, finding a way forward even when it's uncertain.
And I think that's one of the most hopeful messages of the bee sting.
Even when things fall apart, there's still a possibility for growth, for transformation.
That glimmer of hope, that's what keeps us engaged, wanting to see how these characters will evolve.
So let's take a break here, and when we come back, we'll dive into the climax.
Unravel those final threads, see how Murray brings it all together. All right, so we're back, ready to see how the bee sting wraps up.
All those threads we've been following, resilience, family, the past, it all comes to a head in this last part.
And Murray doesn't hold back. Things get pretty intense as we approach the climax.
Yeah, those individual journeys, they start to intersect, and characters have to face some hard truths.
One of the biggest turning points is when Dickie's affair with Rizard comes out. That secret's been simmering for a while.
Yeah, it explodes, shatters whatever fragile piece they had left.
And the fallout, wow, it's devastating for everyone, especially Imelda.
She's already struggling with so much. Her anxieties, that fear of being bad.
And this betrayal just confirms those fears. Her facade crumbles. You see her raw pain.
It's heartbreaking. And Cass is affected too. She's been questioning her parents' marriage all along.
And this just proves her right, shatters those illusions.
And for PJ, it's a huge blow. He's always idolized his dad.
And now he has to face this harsh reality, the potential for betrayal, the messiness of adult relationships.
It's a lot for a young kid to process, and it sets off a chain of events. Everything starts to unravel.
Dickie spirals. He's facing financial ruin. His marriage is falling apart. He retreats to the bunker.
That bunker, it becomes his escape, his attempt to control something, anything.
To shut out the chaos. But it's a false sense of security, right?
It isolates him further, pushes away the people who care about him.
And while Dickie's hiding in the bunker, PJ's drawn deeper into the woods, he finds this connection with Victor.
Victor becomes a surrogate father figure, but he's also a bit of a mystery, potentially dangerous.
PJ's looking for acceptance, belonging, something he's not getting at home.
And Victor offers that, this wildness, a connection to nature, a rejection of societal norms.
There's a darkness there too, a disregard for rules, a hint of violence.
It's unsettling, and it foreshadows the climax, which unfolds in the woods.
Dickie, searching for PJ, he stumbles upon a scene that exposes Victor's true nature.
And the dangers PJ's been exposed to, it's a turning point for both of them.
Dickie has to confront his failures as a father, his inability to protect his son.
And PJ has to face the consequences of his choices, the dangers of seeking validation in the wrong places.
It's a harsh lesson. And amidst all this, Cass makes a decision. She chooses to leave Dublin.
Not to go back to her old life, but to create something new, a fresh start.
She's taking control, breaking free from the patterns of her family.
It's a sign of her resilience, her determination to forge her own path.
And it offers a glimmer of hope, even in the midst of all this tragedy.
A suggestion that healing is possible, that we can create a different kind of future.
Murray leaves the ending open. We don't get all the answers, but we see that potential for growth.
The characters are evolving, adapting, they're finding ways to move forward.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the bee sting, what are your final thoughts?
What stays with me is the interconnectedness of it all, how our choices affect others, the ripple effect.
Yeah, we're all part of something bigger, and our actions matter, even the small ones.
And the power of family, how complicated it can be, the love, the pain, the resilience.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's potential for connection, for forgiveness.
And Murray's ability to blend humor and tragedy, it's what makes this story so powerful, so memorable.
He captures the absurdity of life, the beauty, the messiness, the whole spectrum of human experience.
The bee sting challenges us, makes us think, makes us feel. It's a story that lingers.
So to our listeners, if you're looking for a book that will stay with you, that will make you question and reflect.
The bee sting is it dive into the world of the Barnes family, explore those complex dynamics.
Consider how they navigate loss, resilience, the search for meaning in a world that can feel both chaotic and beautiful.
It's a journey worth taking.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time for another literary adventure.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of BookerCast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.